If you enjoy movies, comic books, and pop culture, be sure to like and subscribe.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC Podcast, brought to you by REC Comics and Collectibles. I'm your host, Roman Chavez, and with me, as always, that's right, Eric's stupid Iron Man streak is over. I think this is the first episode he's missed, and, it actually sucks. But, picking up the slack, Big Tuna. Tuna! You can catch us online on Instagram at REC Podcast. You can follow myself at Roman REC Podcast. You can follow the shop at REC Comics, or you can come check us out at 7679 North Union Boulevard in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And you can find the Tuna out in the streets, slinging that chicken, doing what needs to be done, filet. How are you doing this week, buddy?
I'm pretty good. It's like it feels like the first like week of summer.
Yeah.
You know, like we've had a lot of rain and stuff, and but these last few days have been pretty nice. So I'm ready. Summer tuna's ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, summer tuna.
Yeah.
That's probably when it's the freshest.
Yeah.
Or do you want colder waters?
See, that's the thing is it's got to be cold water, but it's got to be sunny.
Sure. Okay. Cold and sunny. I dig that, which has kind of been the weather in Colorado a bit off and on. I'm digging the rain. I'm to that age where when people say. I'm like, we could use the moisture.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like when it rains, like when you reach at least 30, like every adult man looks out the window and is like, this is good for the trees.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This is good. I've heard a thing going on that and I've noticed it in myself. When good lightning storms are going on outside, dads love it. It gives the proverbial dad thing, and it's just it's one of those things where if you haven't experienced this yet, next time there's a good thunder and lightning storm, good visuals, get yourself a cup of coffee or a nice soda, go out there and watch God's glory in the sky, man. It's so and I get excited about it, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, lightning killed my grandfather, so I'm not planning on doing that.
Well,
but it's cool.
Eventually.
I have a sound machine.
Fight the lightning. Yeah, you're just in your room listening, cowering.
Isn't Fight the Lightning a Dio album?
Ride the Lightning is a Metallica album. See, Eric's not here. Yeah. We got the music references, guys. We got them. A little bit of a news that came out today that I want to talk about because I really want to know your thoughts on this Tunish. What do you think of Captain America Brave New World?
Yeah, so this, in hindsight, it seems pretty clear, this is the only thing they could do. When you've got, when Hollywood is producing a $100 million movie, and there's a lot of talk about, ethnic groups running Hollywood and pulling strings, and you name the movie New World Order, it was bound to get changed at some point.
Yeah.
So, the way Marvel announced it on the socials is there's a set picture of Anthony Mackie in his Cap uniform, and he's leaning over talking to Harrison Ford, who's been recast as Thunderbolt.
I thought he was recast as old Captain America.
yeah. Oh my God! I would totally. That's the what if I want. But the seat back. On their little, studio Hollywood, we're better than everybody chair.
Yeah.
It was the Brave New World, and so then it was Captain America: Brave New World in theaters May 2024, and so that was kind of their announcement. It's interesting because when the picture first came up, when that post came up, I didn't even read the text of it.
Yeah.
It's it's a behind the scenes picture, and so I was looking. I'm pinch zooming in on his costume. I'm like, oh, did you notice the little wrap thing around his arm, and I'm looking at the screen because they're in a covered tent, they're filming outside, so they're showing maybe the dailies they filmed that day or something, and it looks like Cap in the more white and blue uniform, but he's Anthony Mackie standing there in it looks kind of like the Cap uniform he ended with and Falcon Winter Soldier crossed with the Winter Soldier, where it's the dark blue.
Cool.
So I was oh, there's kind of maybe two different costumes here, and I zoomed out and I was like, oh, they renamed the movie.
Yeah.
so it kind of got buried on me there. But yeah, Brave New World, again, I don't think it's going to make reference to Aldous Huxley's famous work, kind of a companion to 1984, to Fahrenheit 451. I think it's just in reference to the idea that there's going to be this monumental shift in the power structure. Maybe it could be nation states. There's a lot of those rumors about, are we going to see the inclusion of Timul?
Yeah, Timo, the Celestial.
The Celestial, who died in Eternals.
Aborted Celestial.
Well,
Let's just say what it is, okay? The Eternals, they committed a sin against God.
Yeah,
right?
that was an incredibly late term.
I mean, a third out, you know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the former governor of Virginia advocated for
Oh my gosh.
But, he said it will make the baby comfortable.
Yeah.
On the side. So like, I think Brave New World and New World Order, they give off kind of a similar feel. There's going to be a seismic shift. Things moving forward are different in some way. And so because both titles kind of allude to that in some way, and that seems to be the vibe that I'm getting from the movie, and the limited knowledge we have so far, I'm fine with it. It screamed of Illuminati. And it kind of, I don't know what their thoughts were specifically, if they wanted to like move away from like all the conspiracy theories. This movie would be trending on Reddit though, regardless, so I don't know.
You know, I loved it when you sent me that they changed it and that you said that they were told to do it, and that's hilarious. I don't think that both titles evoke the same emotion from me. New World Order sounds like something we're fighting against, and Brave New World is something that we're fighting for. So I think that there was a more like negative connotation to it, which I was kind of looking forward to. So I wonder how if the title change will affect my perception of the movie. If they haven't changed anything, just the branding, but why do it? I mean, we were excited about it, and they've done it before. You know, it was supposed to be Infinity War Part 1 and 2. You know, and maybe that was always just, we're going to always rename
placeholder.
them. Yeah.
Which, thinking back on it, I think I would have actually liked Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2, because I get the inclusion of, like, Endgame, but, like, it's the extension of the Infinity War. So, it's kind of they thought they lost, but, like, they go back and, like, re-wage the war. So thinking back on it, like, I think it would have been cool to have kept it.
I want you to think about this question. What I would have thought it would have been cool if it was Avengers Infinity War something, and like we don't get that title until the end credits, like signifying they're lost, and then and then Endgame being the other one. It would have been cool if it was Infinity War Part 1, the Stone Collector, and then or something like that. Like that would have been kind of cool, because then I think that they're really missing a lot of opportunity to make comic book movies feel like comic books, because they do succeed on a lot of these things, but like especially in this new, where we have Shang-Chi that really doesn't deal with much of anything, Eternals that seems unto itself, except now 4 years later we're gonna get the Celestial. But dude, if they show Eternals in there, that'd be cool. Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange is there, but it really, like, you don't feel the ties, like there's no Infinity Stones, you know what I mean? So is this going to now, solidify where we're going? Is it going to start putting us in this direction? I don't know.
Yeah, I would say, like, my general feeling, since we've already they've stopped production on Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
That movie was not.
Is that more writer strike?
That's more writer strike stuff. But Captain America was already, like, they're already moving ahead on that.
Yeah.
But I would say that I see Captain America, now Brave New World, it's going to take a minute to get used to that name. I see that as more closely aligning to, like, Thunderbolts, where it's like, I could see one story leading to the other, perhaps, or something. But yeah, we don't, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, like, we don't have, like, an overarching plot that is happening like we had in the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
There's been little things, and we've talked before about, like, kind of this multiverse approach. But again, ironically, probably the one thing that could not create a coherent universe is a multiverse. It's kind of the exact opposite of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe moving forward, we start to get a better look at kind of the grander universe, and that some of these things that do feed into each other. You've got Captain America and the Winter Soldier series. I'm sorry, Falcon and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and the inclusion of making Falcon the new Captain America, and how that's going to lead into further stuff. Like, these dominoes, they do hit each other.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's moving towards that grand reveal. I'm still waiting for the the master plan that we saw in Infinity War and Endgame, where like you see, like for a while you see the pieces moving, you don't see the board.
Yeah.
Until like you really get to like Infinity War, and you see kind of how all these things are tying in together. And yeah, like we learn like, okay, like the Thanos tease at the end of Avengers. We start learning about the Tesseract. We start learning about the altering of reality, the ether in Thor: The Dark World. And that's where you start to kind of get the zoomed out. It's like, okay, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and like Thanos, like just it's a super underrated, like I think it was mid-credit scene of him like getting the gauntlet and like I'm like final doing
yeah.
You know, like where it's like, okay, this is like it's clear this is where they're heading. Like we don't have that. I don't know if Marvel has that right now.
Yeah.
If they don't have it, I think that's a problem. And if they do, they haven't rolled it out. If again, not to beat on that dead horse that was Ant-Man Quantumania, but you know that was supposed to be the big kickoff of the next phase, and it's sort of like an appetizer, and you can't taste. You don't know where it's going. So I don't know. I do want to see these stories feed into each other. I do want to see the dominoes fall. I think that's what really builds up to us connecting with the characters, so their deaths, their losses are more meaningful.
Yeah.
But like when everything just feels so disconnected, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. How would you feel about a scene, like I wish they were brave enough to do this type of thing, where stuff's going down, things are happening, and then all of a sudden a time portal opens up, you see two Kangs doing their thing, and then they go someplace else. Do you think that's too jarring to throw in just like what was that? But like other stuff is going on, because we need those breadcrumbs. We need things that'll happen. Like in Thunderbolts, we see the Thunderbolts going into their final battle, and they just get massacred. And then you just see Kang like in a temple ship being like, well, we need them to destroy so-and-so to take so-and-so off the board. So he like rewinds time, changes things a little bit to then make it so that they survive.
Yeah, like that would be interesting to kind of see, like from Kang's perspective, like the meddling. Part of me does want to see in Loki season 2, like I want to see like there's kind of this belief that's like they're going after like Kang and these like variants and these things, but like I want to see other Kangs going after Kang.
Yes, me too.
Because again, we were led to believe that this war Kang in Quantumania was this such big threat. That what are the rest doing?
Yeah.
Like to what end? But at the same time, like I like that idea, but again, I think that leads into, and this can segue into the Spider-Verse conversation. If we have a character who we see essentially doing that, where they're walking back incidents, they're some of these things. Does that remove the weight of the actions? Like, do we now get to a point where, like, I've critiqued the multiverse before, where it's like the stakes don't matter anymore?
Yeah.
Like now, a character's death doesn't mean anything if you can just always bring them back.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you will, but the fact that you can, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, in Spider-Verse, in all these different multiverse stories, we are seeing behind the curtain.
Yeah.
We're Doctor Strange with Scarlet Witch, who is manipulating. She's going after America in these different realities.
Yeah.
We've gotten a ton of multiverse stuff, and we have sometimes seen the man behind the curtain. But yeah, to what end? Like, what is it building towards?
Yeah.
And is it going to be the Beyonder? Is it going to be Secret War? Like, I don't know. But.
Because Kang's storyline has to sum up with them walling off realities because of the dangers of the incursions and all of that. So whatever happens, we've got to go that way. What's interesting is in Loki season 2, this is clearly that timeline's version of Kang. So, he doesn't have the super sophisticated stuff yet, at least you wouldn't think, but he's going to get it through Steam, maybe. Or it would be really cool if our Kang from Quantumania got sucked into another reality.
See, and that's the thing, is like, I don't think he's gone.
Yeah. He's definitely not.
Like, I think that version of Kang is going to be out somewhere, and it could be that Victor Timely is a full Kang, but yeah, he's put in a position where he doesn't have he's Doc sent to 1885.
Yes.
Where it's like he's got the intelligence.
Yeah.
He can't make a lead of gas.
Tony,
1885, you know?
I'm limited by the science of my time.
Yeah.
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 Howard Stark. Yeah, I've been thinking about that quite a bit, you know, because we're coming up close on Secret Invasion, which not enough people are talking about. And it's, man, if Marvel's going to squander this opportunity, like I said, my fantasy is that Kevin Feige in the sky is that we see ramifications of this in a later phase. Like we leave this show like, okay, Nick Fury stopped it. He stopped it before it got out of control, but he really didn't. You know,
or do you think there's gonna be the moment where Nick Fury like walks out of the room and he's victorious, and then like the very end shot of Secret Invasion is, you know, Nick Fury shaving and you see the green and you see it change back, and it's like, okay, so the Nick Fury moving forward we know is a scroll. I mean, yeah, like but yeah, one of the, you know, when you got me into comics, that was one of the first things.
Can we call it when I comicked you?
It was my
it was your comicking.
No, it was my canon event.
Your comic book awakening.
You know, but yeah, it's like you've got Elektra, right? And she's dead, and then she's a Skrull. And it's like, I'm like, what does this mean? And you're like, oh, it means so much.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But yeah, like the, you know, when you do a story where you've got characters that can be replaced and you've got characters that are, what can you trust? This was something that Far From Home did a good job getting close to the line without crossing it, and that was that whole like, what can you believe? Yeah. And you know, there was that moment where Peter goes to meet Tony and Maria Hill, and it's like an Inception. It's like a Russian nesting doll, like where it's like he's seeing Nick Fury and Maria being attacked, but like they were not there in the first place, and like then they show up, but they're not actually there. Like there was some clever ways of doing that, but ultimately, yeah, we do need to reach a point where it's like we can't be left doubting everything. Yeah. Because then you lose the stakes. Yes. Like, there can be doubts. There can be little seeds. Maybe I don't know if I should trust this person or that person, but yeah, we do need to have some. There needs to be some finality. Yeah. In a sense, however they wrap it up.
And as much as we hate it, like, at least we have that with Tony Stark at the moment. Yeah. They did really good because there was talk of him being in the Illuminati, but it's just like you can't do that yet because you only get the trick once, and you can't use it that soon. Like it really does need to be this all is, like I always say, it all is lost moment, and then, you know, a ticket getter. So put it in the right spot. Having Cap wait until the 4th Avengers movie, quasi 5th if you count Civil War, right? 1, 2, Civil War, yeah, and
like some people count Civil War as a third Cap. Yeah, as the third Cap.
It's more of an Avengers film. Yeah. I mean, but it is an Avengers movie, and it carries on the Bucky and Steve story.
Yeah, it's a Cap story with an Avengers cast.
Yes. So like you could, like, if you in our Avengers appearances, saving Avengers Assemble to the 5th appearance is brilliant because Joss had a moment in mind, and he didn't get to do it, which the Russos did great. I can't imagine how you improve upon this. Even Joss said after he watched Winter Soldier, I hope when I grow up I make movies as good as the Russo brothers, you know? Like that's a crazy compliment from somebody who, again, my favorite Avengers movie is Age of Ultron. It's the most comic book. It's super fun. They do a lot of comic stuff. But we've been talking quite a bit about multiversal stuff, and you and I both had the opportunity this weekend, opening weekend, to go watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. First one is Into. This is Across, and kids, we will be talking spoilers, so prepare yourselves. Spoilers. One of the craziest things, and I wanted to talk to you about this. I told you before you went and saw it, because I went with my family, you went with yours, and I really enjoyed myself, but it was like, what is this movie doing? And then about 10 minutes before it ends, I'm like, man, they got a lot of stuff to wrap up. I did not know that they were going to do a third one. You figured, but I didn't know that they were going to treat this as a bridge film, like like a Empire Strikes Back type thing. Did you know that going in?
Yeah, so I did know. Like, I already knew before the movie came out that there was Across and there was Beyond.
I didn't know they were doing Beyond. Okay.
But now there's nothing known about Beyond.
Yes.
It's a 2024 release. That's all we know right now. You assume cast back, and then with the way that Across ends, it very much feels, and I made this reference to you before the episode. A lot of Across the Spider-Verse feels like Back to the Future 2.
Yeah,
where there's you get that really that awesome ending. Like that's one of my favorite endings to a movie is Doc sent Marty. You know, like it's like, oh, you know, it's all great and stuff like that, and he's celebrating. He's in 1955, and Marty, you know, comes, you know, and like it's the whole moment where it's like, you know, I'm back from the future, and like he's like, wait, no, I just sent you. How are you here?
Yeah.
And like it's that like great moment, and then the camera pans out, and it's like, you know, to be concluded.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, okay, yeah. So it's like, you know, you just seen Doc disappear. He gets the letter. Doc's in the past, and Marty's like, well, I have a Doc here right now. I need to go find him.
Yeah.
And so we get that moment at the end of Gwen like assembling the team. They're gonna go find Miles. They're gonna get him back to where he belongs. Throughout the movie, one of my problems that I had when I was watching it is the pacing, not of the movie, but of the story.
Yeah.
And so I would make the distinction because, you know, the movie did a good job having, you know, action pieces and then, you know, the lull. And, you know, some people, I think I used to be like this where, like, I was all about the action scenes. And now, like, you realize, like, it's the value of, like, a salad.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, you know, I don't want to have a salad as a meal, but if I'm going to a restaurant, like, having a steak, like, I need it there, too.
Yeah.
You know? So, but the issue that I had, though, was so much at the beginning of the movie was Gwen heavy.
Yeah.
And I love the Gwen stuff they've done. I wanted that stuff in the story. It just felt like it didn't need to be the prologue. It didn't need to be the opening bookend of the movie.
Interesting.
Then we get, I mean, because it's like, it felt like it was 20 minutes before we even saw Miles.
Yeah.
It may not have been 20 minutes, but it felt like it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Then, you know, we get into this this whole thing with Miles, and they're still kind of playing up his, you know, he's pulled in all these different directions. He wants to kind of live his life. They've done a really good job writing his character complex because his parents have these unique identities, and so he's got kind of the heritage from his dad. He's a strong, you know,
independent black woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Miles is the Beyonce of the Spider-Verse.
Beyonce, the Spider-Verse.
You know, his mom's heritage, like, and that's great. Like that shot of her finding out he's like got to be in Spanish. She snaps in the Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, just like really clever stuff. He wants to do his own thing. Gwen, you know, kind of like shows up, and then he's like, I'm going to follow her. She's up to something. It did take a long time to get into that spider world, which was so much of the marketing. So it was like, I was just like, where are we getting to this?
Yeah.
I remember watching the animated Spider-Man series and seeing the spot on there and being like, this is kind of like a cool thing. Again, being a surface level comic fan, I've never read a comic that he's included in.
Sure. There's not many. So.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool that they made him goofy in a sense, you know, like his power looked cool, like, you know, and Miles kind of learned how to fight him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, where it's like I can web through the portal and grab something, you know.
And that's something that's always great about Spider-Man books, and it goes across most of the spiders, is that, like, oh crap, like, this guy has fire. Like, what am I going to do? Like, they have to figure it out, you know? It's just like a spider. Like, I want to eat that. How do I get to it?
The only thing that was a little forced was Tom Holland's in No Way Home when he's fighting Doctor Strange in, like, the mirror dimension.
Yeah.
He's like, this is all math. And it's like, well, but I don't know, like, but that's how that's how he was able to stop Doctor Strange.
Yeah, perfect.
So like they established this villain. That was kind of cool how they tied it into the particle accelerator with the Kingpin in the first movie. But then like it weirdly like raises the stakes. Like this guy kind of goes like quickly to like an uber villain level. You know, he's doing this universe hopping that was kind of cool. How he's like inverted. Like you know, originally he was like white with a few black spots, and now he's like black with like a white swirl. You know, kind of almost felt like The Question, kind of. You know, where it's like kind of this blank affect. But yeah, so they got this back and forth taking place. We get Miguel introduced. I love Oscar Isaac. This guy is killing it in like everything he does. I mean, again, I don't consider it the worst X-Men movie. Yeah. It's not the best, but Apocalypse, like, it has some moments.
It does. He does have really cool moments.
And, like, I liked Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse. My only complaint was that I didn't feel like he was big enough physically. Yeah. Like, I did want that 90s X-Men. Like, I wanted Apocalypse to be, like, 8 feet tall. and like have like the lines. I wanted the whiteout eyes. But like his delivery of his character, he feels almost messianic. Like, and I remember my dad and I, right before we ran the Boulder, we went and watched it. He has never like seen any of the X-Men movies, but we'll go see a movie, and we watched it. And when we were talking about it, I commented on the fact that when they go and he's got Magneto, and he's kind of collecting these people. And he says, come and see, which is a Jesus reference, where it's like, like, what do you want to teach me? Like,
the JC
what
guy.
Can you do for me? Yeah, what can you do for me? And it's like, come find out, And so he built his horsemen and stuff, But yeah, Star Wars, Moon Knight, which again, I think I've softened up a little bit to Moon Knight because I like the performances more than I like some of the story stuff. Yeah. It did take a little too long to get to where it was going. But, I mean, Oscar Isaac, if there were some flaws with the series, I wouldn't say Oscar Isaac was
No, he's not, yeah.
Poe Dameron, in 7, 8, 9, he's one of the most, like, stable, like, good characters.
Yeah.
He does have the 2-ton weight to carry in episode 9 of somehow Palpatine return. Like, that poor guy, I would have been like, I need another million. Another million, and I'll save the line. Yeah. Like, otherwise, get 3PO, get some other idiot, like, to throw it out there, get Billy Lord. Yeah. Just say it or something, but I'm not. So, but his Miguel O'Hara, like, they kind of set up this.
And he did voice him in the end of in the credits scene.
Into the Spider-Verse, but yeah, so they kind of set up that he's kind of shot calling this Spider Universe collectively, that they are essentially the TVA of the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
Which is interesting because when he's explaining it, and they show the kind of the branches of reality, it looks the exact same as the way Marvel's depicted it, with kind of this tree. Mm-hmm. And going back to something you said earlier, we were talking about walling off realities. I would love for them to explain when all this Kang stuff, all this multiverse saga stuff is done, that you can prune the tree, and the branches can become their own trees. Yeah. Like that instead of making one tree with no branches, you cut the branches off the tree. Yeah. Like, I know it sounds weird, but like a way to make it so that like these universes can exist.
It gets like a Yggdrasil like feel from the world tree. Like, I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
But yeah. So the third act of the movie, though, it feels really top heavy because so much of the importance of the story comes in the third act. We learn we learn about the canon events, and I'll ask you a question about that in a second. Canon events and kind of each of these spider people's worlds. We learn about Miles and kind of the fact that he is one of these. What would you call it?
He's an abnormality.
Yeah, because
he's a variant
the spider,
or something.
Yeah, the spider was not supposed to bite him. Yeah. And then we get the big reveal that when he goes back to his world to save his dad, because his dad is destined to die.
So let's stop early. Let's talk about the canon events real quick, because we're kind of, that was such a cool thing to throw in there. They mentioned that this idea of canon events, which we know in other things is like fixed points, things that are meant to happen. We see that in Quantum Leap, a favorite show of ours. And where, especially in the JFK episode, where he's Scott Bakula is Lee Harvey Oswald, and so he's supposed to stop the JFK assassination, from Quantum Leap, but something happens, and he still ends up like it's supposed to happen in time. So they it has to, so these fixed points in times. For the spiders, they call them a canon event, which I love because that's just a great comic book nod to canon. And they're basically referencing things that happen to Spider-Man that either make him or make him a better Spider-Man. Uncle Ben's death, Uncle Aaron's death, and Into the Spider-Verse. It was a really cool way to like just put it out there. It makes sense in a multiversal concept, and they're saying that these things must happen, and we see what happens when they don't. When Miles goes on a mission to the Spider-Man India universe, they're trying to save some people. It looks like, I believe, his dad or his uncle is the chief of police in India, and niece or sister, and something's going to happen where they're going to get crushed. And Miles is there on this mission, and he's able to save them while Spider-Man India saves this bus of kids. And it causes a disruption in their universe because what Miguel says is that was a canon event. They were supposed to die, and because he interfered, their world is destabilizing. Go.
Yeah. So, it is interesting because, how many iterations of Spider-Man have we seen?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, like, poor Uncle Ben.
Dude.
Like, this guy is, this poor guy just keeps getting it. But it's interesting because, like, they didn't do the Uncle Ben in No Way Home, but they did Aunt May, which was like a clever
Great.
Again,
didn't see it coming.
Yeah, because it's like that's the canon. That's his canon, right? What we end up seeing is the ramifications of what happens if a canon event is stopped. Now, a team is deployed, a team of other Spider-Men, Spider people, Spider-Its, and they're attempting to kind of stop this like wormhole, this sort of appearance in the world.
Which looks all like Spot's powers.
Yes, yeah. To stop it from swallowing the universe, right? And so Miguel is kind of pretty much on this mission that we have to let these canon events happen. Miles knows too much. Like it's like your dad's going to die, which is why we have to keep you here until that happens.
And there is a thing in the movie where there's especially police captains. Miles' dad is a sergeant, but along his timeline, his dad is actually in Miles' universe. His dad is being promoted like in a week or two.
Yeah.
So he's going to be promoted to captain, which captains die apparently. Peter has Captain Stacy, and so on. Sorry.
Yeah. No. So it sets up this whole idea of like Miles being like, I've got to get back home. I can save my dad. It's interesting because again, we did see earlier Miguel pretty much say like we can't risk it if these canon events don't happen, but we don't necessarily. The fact that they deployed a team to that world to like attempt to stop it suggests that there's a theory that it can be stopped.
Do you think that team killed India's dad and sister?
Yes.
They go in there and they're just like sorrow, and then they bounce.
I will say it's also interesting that the elite of the elite that they didn't include Miles probably because the canon event hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the interesting thing. They included Spider-Man India before his canon event happened. Because he's like, you've only been a Spider-Man for 6 months?
Yeah.
And he's like, and these things. So he is already tied into this team. He may not have had any knowledge of the canon events. Like, they may have been like, he could have been like a spy who's not, it's compartmentalized information.
Yeah.
We may call on you to help with this or to help with that. But like they didn't tell him about the canon event. It's interesting because Spider-Man India is, again, as your average comic fan, you probably didn't think I would pick up on this. Yeah. But the bus of kids and the girl, very much Green Goblin, like Gwen Stacy, like just like that whole idea of like Spider-Man 1, Green Goblin, it's got Mary Jane, there's the kids on the bridge, again it's that whole like
choose!
He can't choose the form. Really cool setup. Miles escapes from Miguel. Really cool action sequence where he's like, he's on this like train that's like going to the moon, he pretty much tells Miguel, I got everybody away from the portal, and then breaks free, gets there, goes through the portal, and again, Back to the Future 2. The world he goes back to is not his own. Yeah. And that was a really clever twist. Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. What I want to ask you about, though, is that in Spider-Man 2099, right, Miguel O'Hara? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a Spanish, Irish guy.
Is he from like the south of Chicago? Boston? So there's kind of a throwaway reference, and I say it's a throwaway because we don't see it impact this story. I do think it's going to impact the third story, but we learn that Miguel is like a vampire.
Yes.
We see him take a shot. It kind of reminds me of the storm that Blade takes.
Which would be cool. That's why. Cool. Yeah. And Blade is very intertwined with the Spider-Man universe too.
Yeah. So you said that you're not really familiar with any inclusion there. I wonder if that's a plot point that's set up in 2, because at the end of 2, we essentially see Miguel. Who else is with him? Jessica?
Jess Drew.
And then
Spider-Bite.
Ben came, but then he got sent back. Right?
Yeah.
Which that was kind of weird.
That was weird.
The way he like wrote his like inner monologue.
Like Ben was clearly, he was very brooding in the 90s.
Yes.
So,
He's,
yeah.
That was clever. But if Miguel, if they're on this mission in this world to make sure that the canon event's going to happen, he's going to be without that serum. And as we've seen in any vampire lore, when someone's taking a serum, they always include that as a plot point so that you take it away.
Yeah.
There's never a story where a vampire always has their supply. So I wonder if we're going to start to see, Miguel through the movie, we kind of see him unravel. He kind of starts as like a grumpy, like, Hannibal from the A-Team, where he's like kind of leading this mission, and he slowly like gets more and more personal. Like he's the one who's like trying to pull the portal open to stop Miles. He's the one who's holding on to Miles. Like this is like it's a belief. He's got to do this. He's got to do this. And I wonder if we're going to kind of see him spiral into a more villainous, like he's losing his sense of reality, because this vampire side of him is starting to take over. Interesting plot point for 3. But I'd like to ask you, I want to hear your explanation of the big reveal with Miles, where he is with his uncle. So what was that in the movie, and how do you feel about that as a story?
In terms of that alternate reality, so there's a point in where Miles is trying to get back to his own reality to save his dad, because he finds out his dad is a canon event, which I really want to come back to canon events again. And the portal that sends them home, it scans the DNA of the spider that bit you. So that DNA that's inside of you, it sends you back to your universe. Well, and they never came back to it in Into the Spider-Verse. But after it bites Miles, his spider, we see it glitch. So we know they set that seed, which I appreciate. Miller and Lord, man, these guys are geniuses. And they set that up. So that spider's not from Miles' universe. So it scans him and it sends him to his universe. In his universe, and I don't really want to...
His universe meaning the universe the spider is from.
Yes, sorry. Yes, thank you. The Spider's universe. So in this world, there doesn't appear to be a Peter Parker Spider-Man, and his dad had died in the line of duty, it seems like, and Miles and his uncle are like a Prowler uncle and nephew team.
Yeah.
Now you're asking like what I think of that?
Yeah, where do you think they're going to go with it? Do you kind of like that? Like, because that world has a Peter Parker, or it has a Miles Morales, but you assume it has a Peter Parker because that spider would have been the spider to bite Peter Parker.
Yes.
So I wonder if we'll get introduced to a Peter Parker we haven't met.
That's cool. I didn't think about that. Or that spider was supposed to bite that Miles and he still becomes a bad guy. Mm-hmm. Because not every Spider-Man's going to be good. Where was I going to go with that?
You want to talk about canon events?
Oh, yes. I do want to talk about the canon events, because what's really going to bake your noodle is, would the canon event have happened if he doesn't send that team? Like Miguel doesn't send that team. Miguel makes reference that he had loss in his universe. Okay? And then he found a universe where his Miguel had died or something, and he replaced him. And you get the sense, and they do kind of show a little like him and his daughter type thing. And then we see, and then he talks about how he lost, everything. So, him universe jumping and then becoming a vampire, I think, is a canon of was not supposed to happen, and it might have triggered that event that happened. Like, he's supposed to be Spider-Man, he negates that. In this other universe, he gets bit, and it collapses this universe where he'd already lost his family in his Prime universe. Now he's collapsed another universe, and now he's a vampire. So Miles even makes reference, why do you have claws? And he has like laser webs.
Yeah, laser webs. Yeah.
And in comics, Miguel, his spider thing is just more like a feral-like spider. Some spiders do have like clawed appendages. So like his isn't a full-on like web swinging. So, but having him be a vampire... So I think he himself is an anomaly outside of his reality. So he's safe with the bracelet and in the spider TVA.
Yeah. So
he's seen what happens when things change, and because his spider didn't bite the Peter or the Miles or the Peter from his world, it is. But then his world should have collapsed.
Well, it showed him like running. with his daughter. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, was that his world? Like,
I think his world is changing because either A, he didn't become Spider-Man where he was supposed to be, or that Miguel that he replaces was supposed to become Spider-Man. He doesn't, and then the world changes.
Yeah.
So like there's some things there.
I wonder if the changing of the world caused him to become a vampire.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like maybe it's like these things either they end your reality or it turns it into a horrific nightmare. It turns it into the random
The dark universe.
Yeah.
It's always a dark thing. Like there has to be a good Miles. But in comics, Miles is bit by another spider from Oscorp. So one of the things that I really like about this franchise now is that it really is its own thing. It's its MCU version of itself. Because so there's not that interdimensional stuff that's happening. And the fact that what makes that so interesting is also something that takes it away. I want to see the Miles Spider-Man where he's fighting the Rhino. Like I want to see him fight where are we going to go from this to where it's entertaining to watch him fight something that's not interdimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's sad because these movies really aren't Miles Morales movies.
No.
Like
they're Spider-Verse movies.
It's Spider-Verse movies from Miles' perspective. We talked before the episode about live action, right? There's some live action reference. We see Spot show up in the Venom world.
Yeah.
Which
talking to that.
Talking to the
bodega lady.
Yeah. Yeah, the Buddha. I thought that was like a Russian boogeyman. And then we see Donald Glover, a great meta reference there. He shows up as the Prowler in Homecoming. There had been kind of this push to try to get him cast.
Just as Aaron Davis in Homecoming, who is the Prowler.
Yeah. Right, yeah. But you see him live action in a Prowler like suit kind of thing, and boo, just awesome reference. I'm glad we didn't get more of it. It was just enough. Similar to the Lego universe, or the occasional hearing J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, where it's like he shows up in a few of the realities, Lego or in animated form. Like it was just enough that you had asked, like, are we gonna maybe get a live action actor playing this Miles in a universe in the third movie. I was just thinking it would be quite interesting. These movies, trilogies, it's all circular storytelling, right? Like the third movie needs to kind of tie back to the first, and in some way, like Jedi does it. He ends up back on Tatooine, and Back to the Future does it.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting if they do a live action sequence. I feel like if your threat is the Spot, he's become this kind of multiverse threat. He's essentially become like a Kang threat.
To
their multiverse. If there ends up being a live action sequence and they're like, we've got to find the person who's like building this particle accelerator, and it's Wilson Fisk, it's Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh man.
Who's filming scenes. He filmed scenes for the Echo series. He's filming scenes for Daredevil Born Again. To show Miles walking through a crowd, bump into a guy with a big white suit. It would just be kind of an interesting little thing.
Or have it be your boy Liev Schreiber in like a fat suit.
Yeah, dude.
Because he did the voice of. That'd be cool.
Yeah. The question is going to be, I feel like they've used the Spider-Verse story to give us a very interesting Miles that can live outside of the Spider-Verse storyline. Where do they go with it? I mean, I could see Sony giving us a live-action franchise of Miles Morales.
Yeah.
God, dude, they're giving us a Madam Web movie. Which actually, at this point, Madam Web, before all the Spider-Verse stuff, my only knowledge of Spider-Man multiverse stuff was Madam Web stuff.
Yeah.
Because I watched the cartoon. That's where I knew it from.
That was really the first Spider-Verse stuff.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting at this point, like, there's never been reference to it. Like, will there be reference to it? So we're getting a live-action Madam Web, we're getting a live-action Kraven, we're getting a third Venom movie, which are tied into Sony's live-action Spider-Verse.
Yeah. God, what a crazy sentence to say, and that people understand because they've been trained now. Like anybody who's, it's the vernacular.
Work.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want. I'm gonna say it again. I don't want to see live action Miles introduced in a Tom Holland Spider-Man, because it would not be a live action Miles Morales. Like if it was, like if the pitch was, hey, what if Tom Holland, you know, his Peter Parker, he's been Spider-Man for years, he saved the universe, he was an Avenger. Like, you know, what if he took this you know, young black kid under his wing and taught him the ropes, you know, and he said, again, it'd be the same thing where we're co-opting him. Like, they've built this fantastic character and they've shown him grow and learn and change and fail and succeed. I don't want the live action Miles to be a step back.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a rehash of, like, we don't need an origin again.
Yeah.
We don't need a I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand the stakes of whether or not I should make this decision. Like, it'd be a step back for the character.
Yeah.
It'd be a disservice to what they've already built. So if we are going to get a live action, again, I don't want the third movie. I don't want Beyond the Spider-Verse. I don't want to see universe hopping.
Yeah.
I want to see it because they did so much of it in Spider-Man 2, in Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, that I feel like that plot device has been used. Right? Into the Spider-Verse, you pull these different Spider-Men, Spider-Women, Spider-Pigs into this world.
Yeah.
Across the Spider-Verse, we see this expanse, all these possibilities, so great, so interesting, so whatever, that's fine. But I want the focus to be in, you know, the world that Miles is in,
yeah,
and like maybe, you know, one other one or something. But like, I want it to be somewhat grounded, because we've already seen this hopping through universe stuff already. So I just don't need another movie of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, where do you think they might go with some stuff in Beyond the Spider-Verse?
And one thing I want to say about Spider-Verse in terms of, like, I told you this before you watched it. I said, once you find out what's happening, the movie is much better. And like, once you find out that this is that bridge, like, it made me enjoy the movie a lot more, because I was like, man, not only is this thing long, but it's like, they still got a lot of stuff to do, and I can't wait to see the OG Into the Spider-Verse team going to save Miles. Yeah. You know, that you son of a gun, I'm in type thing, and I love that either they're not part of the Spider-Verse TVA or what, but I think
they did show, what was her name? Yuki?
Oh, yeah, she was part.
She was there.
Yeah, you're right.
She was the only one. We didn't see Spider-Ham. We didn't see Spider-Man Noir. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I think the third one has to be the last one in terms of, like, they're going to have to cut this off. They're going to have us win. I don't think there's any way Miguel makes it out of this series alive, and he'll sacrifice himself like a good Spider-Man would. But, I mean, we're going to get a lot more about Miguel in the third one.
Do you think, like, we're going to get the moment of, like, you know, like him being like, I'm going to do this because I can be with my daughter again?
Yeah.
You know, like, that kind of, that recognition of, like, yeah, like this, yeah, it's the only way kind of thing, you know. Like you said, like these portals that are opening are very similar to the spot, so you kind of feel like, okay, so he'll be the key,
yeah,
to undoing whatever this is. Yeah,
he'll save Miles and fall into the spot with some bomb or something,
yeah,
and then he'll wake up in a universe where his daughter's there or something crazy. You know, like, it's sweet, whatever. But I'm excited. I hope Nick Cage comes back. Because it was bumming me out not getting Spider-Ham, not getting Spider-Man Noir. But you know, I still think it had a lot of the heart. It just doesn't have the magic of the first ones. We had never seen anything like it. And some of the stuff, while revolutionary in how it looks, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, there was a few times that I wish they had scaled it back a little bit in the movie. Like, I'm glad I don't have epilepsy.
Yeah, dude, yeah, you can't watch it if you do, you know. I wonder if you can, if an epileptic can watch stuff with, like, black and gray glasses, to where it's not like really shiny, or if it's just that pattern as well.
Or it's the
for another show. I highly recommend. Obviously, if you're listening to us, we spoiled everything, but there's a lot of cool stuff we didn't talk about. A lot of stuff I'd like to talk about with Eric when he's done doing whatever lame crap he had to do tonight. It was work, whatever. But I think that's our show. If you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Tell us what you thought of the Spider-Verse 2, Across the Spider-Verse. And yeah, let us know, were there some Spider-Man that you saw that, I hope we get to see more of them, because there were definitely a couple in there. I'm glad they did some Ben Reilly stuff. Do you have any hot, fresh, or cold tuna takes for us?
Yeah. We should call them tuna melts.
Oh, tuna melts!
My God.
Tuna melts, there we go.
I don't even like tuna.
I don't either, really. Like, I will, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, if I had to kind of package everything together, I feel like for most franchises, the multiverse plot device has kind of wrapped up. So
yeah.
I want to see Marvel move away from it. DC stayed away from it, probably because of the death of the Snyder-Verse.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're getting that.
But we're still getting it.
I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, I just. Again, it's an interesting plot device, but I think it can also lend itself to making stories feel a little weightless. When characters die, be like, oh, they can always go back, and these things. But yeah, I will say that I think if I go back and watch Into the Spider-Verse now, I'll enjoy it more having watched
I think so
Across
too.
the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And I know that I'll find many more things watching Across the Spider-Verse the second time.
Sure.
I might feel like the pacing fits better, and some of the stuff they did with Gwen and her dad. But yeah, just go watch it.
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think below. Make some comments. Let's get a conversation going. Kids, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I have been your host, Roman Chavez, and for the Big Tuna, we will catch you on the next podcast. We miss you, Eric.